At home, cyberbullying among the youth has been put in the spotlight. Today, GCIS, that's the Department of Communications as well, and Digital Technologies, together with the National Press Club, held a webinar discussing the impact of cyberbullying. eNCA also recently had a focus on the bullying we've seen in our schools. This was, of course, at the back of that tragic death of teenager Lufuno Mavunga from Limpopo, who committed suicide because of bullying. My colleague, reporter Barry Bateman, is following this story of this webinar. Barry, good afternoon. We've had this focus on bullying, and now it's cyberbullying, and you are following that side of it. Tell us what has come out of this webinar today.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dan. Well, firstly, starting off with, well, what is cyberbullying? And what we heard about is how it's quite often an extension of what's happening in the real world, offline. So you've got that physical abuse that takes place in the real world, but there's also the element of emotional abuse. And this is what is extended into the cyber realm, so to speak. You've got all these wonderful social media applications, such as Twitter and WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, and all of these. And while they do have that element of fun and entertainment, it is often and more often being used for the dark side of it, where we find youngsters, teenagers, who are the victims of harassment campaigns by their own peers at school, where you have, and they talked about how easy it is, and we've seen this as grown-ups as well, how easy it is to spread misinformation. Well, in the school environment or the youngster environment, where misinformation is spread about a particular individual to tarnish them or embarrass them, these children. And we're talking about how this impacts children. And we heard how this makes them feel vulnerable, alone, that they don't have any support. And quite often, we result in situations of self-harm. We saw that as the result of the real-life bullying, in that case in Limpopo. But this also happens where we have the cyberbullying. So it is a very real problem. It's something that both parents and children in this 2021, the age of smartphones and easy access and quick data, we need to be able to have an understanding of what this is, to be able to put in place mechanisms to ensure it doesn't happen to our own children.
Barry, what was being proposed as possible solutions to cyberbullying?
Dan, it's one of those things you hear for many other cases of abuse, and it also always comes down to resources. And primary there is information. So empowering your child to firstly know what to look for, so understand what is cyberbullying. So when they are the victim of these kind of harassment campaigns, firstly identify what it is, but then how to respond to it. Now, Media Monitoring Africa was part of this webinar today. They run a program called Web Rangers, which is about empowering children with the knowledge and the responsibility to use social media and the internet in a responsible way. So they're taught how to identify this, and if you do, how to respond. And one of the tips we got is, don't respond to the bullies. Approach an adult or somebody you trust, so you're able to get the support that you need. And the other important aspect, Dan, and I cannot stress this enough, and this was told to us by one of the young web rangers that was there: do not forward other messages that are part of the harassment campaign, because you yourself then could be aiding and abetting the bullying, and you ought not to be part of this.
Very sensible advice and possible ways of dealing with it. It's in our hands, as Nelson Mandela used to tell us, about these challenges of society. And this one, as parents, we need to play a big role. Thank you very much, Barry Bateman, there talking to us about some of what has come out of earlier today's webinar on cyberbullying.